Alright, let's get into it. You hear these acronyms thrown around in government offices, Ipsas, GAAP, IFRS, and your eyes just glaze over. It sounds like alphabet soup made by accountants, and honestly, who has time for that? But stick with me, because one of these, Ipsas 32, is a game changer for how our country, Pakistan, manages its biggest projects. Think about it. The government doesn't build everything itself, right? Highways, power plants, hospitals. Ipsas 32 is the rule book that tells the government how to put these massive multi-billion rupee projects on its financial statements. It's not just boring accounting, it's about making sure we, the public, can actually see what's going on with our money and our infrastructure. Before this standard, it was like the Wild West of public finance. A government department could sign a huge deal with a private company, a new motorway gets built, and on the government's official books, crickets. It was like the project didn't exist from a financial perspective, at least not in a way that you or I could easily track. This created a massive blind spot. We knew the road existed, we drove on it, but we couldn't see the long-term financial promises the government made to the company that built it. Ipsas 32 flips the script. It forces the government to be upfront and say, hey, we now control this new asset, and by the way, we also owe the builder a whole lot of money for it over the next 25 years. Essentially, Ipsas 32 is like turning on the lights in a very large, very expensive room that used to be kept dark. This simple act of recording changes everything, laying the foundation for a more accountable and transparent public sector in Pakistan. It's a big step, and it's about time we took it. To really get why Ipsas 32 is such a big deal, you have to understand the before picture of public accounting in Pakistan. For decades, our government departments ran on a system that was, to put it politely, old school. We're talking about cash basis accounting. It's a simple system. Money comes in, you record it. Money goes out, you record it. Think of it like your personal bank account statement. If you paid your electricity bill this month, it shows up. If you have a massive credit card bill due next month, your current bank statement doesn't care. It's a very in-the-moment way of looking at finances, which is fine for your daily chai budget, but not for running a country of 240 million people. This cash-based system created some huge gaps in financial reporting, especially for long-term projects. Imagine the government signs a deal for a new airport. A private company will build it and run it for 30 years. Under the old system, the government might only record the small payments it makes in a given year. The massive multi-billion rupee promise to pay the company back over 3 decades. It was basically off the books. It existed in a contract filed away in some ministry, but it wasn't on the main financial statements. This is what accountants call off-balance sheet financing, which is a fancy way of saying hiding your debts. It made the government's financial position look way healthier than it actually was. Okay, let's break down the jargon. The heart of Ipsas 32 is this thing called a service concession arrangement. It sounds complicated, but the concept is pretty simple. It's basically a long-term contract. The government, the grantor, the private company, the operator, they deliver a public service. The private company usually designs, builds, finances, operates, like a bridge, a water treatment plant, or even an IT network for a government department. In return, the government either pays the company over time or lets the company charge the public directly for using the service. Think of a toll road. The key question Ipsas 32 asks is, who really controls this asset? The private company may have built it and is running the day-to-day operations, but the government usually sets the rules. The government decides what services must be provided, who they are provided to, and at what price. For example, on a motorway built under such a deal, the government will specify the safety standards, the maintenance requirements, and will have the final say on the toll fees. At the end of the contract, say in 30 years, the asset, the motorway, is typically handed back to the government in good working condition. The first and most critical step is playing detective. You can't just apply Ipsas 32 to every single government contract. You have to figure out if the deal you're looking at is a service concession arrangement. There's a checklist, a set of conditions that need to be met. The standard is very specific, and getting this first step wrong means everything that follows will be incorrect. It's like a doctor diagnosing an illness. You need to be sure of what you're treating before you start prescribing medicine. So, department heads and accountants need to put on their Sherlock Holmes hats and examine the contract's fine print. The two big questions you need to answer are about control. First, does the government control or regulate what services the operator must provide with the asset to whom it must provide them and at what price? Think about the M2 motorway between Lahore and Islamabad. The government doesn't just let the operator charge whatever it wants or shut down lanes for no reason. The National Highway Authority, or NHA, has significant say over the operations setting the terms for maintenance approving toll rates. If the answer to this control question is yes, you're on the right track. This condition ensures that the asset is being used for a public purpose dictated by the state. Once you've confirmed you're dealing with a service concession arrangement, the accountants roll up their sleeves. It's time to put that asset on the books. This is step 2, recognizing and measuring the service concession asset. The basic rule: the government records the asset at its fair value. Fair value can seem fuzzy, but it generally means the price that would be received to sell an asset in an orderly transaction between market participants. For a brand new asset, it's usually the cost of construction. Private company spends 50 billion rupees building a highway for the government. The government records a service concession asset, highway, at 50 billion rupees. This happens as the asset is being built. Accounting isn't done once at the end, it's done in stages. As the operator completes phases of construction and incurs costs, the asset value on the government's books grows. This gives a real-time view of state-controlled infrastructure, even without upfront cash. What if the private company upgrades an existing asset? Example: government gives an old public hospital to a private operator to modernize and operate. Operator spends 10 billion rupees on new wings, modern equipment, a complete overhaul. Government increases the hospital asset by the fair value of these upgrades, 10 billion rupees. Remember, in accounting, there's no such thing as a free lunch. When you record a 50 billion rupee asset on one side of your balance sheet, you have to record a 50 billion rupees something on the other side to make it balance. This is step 3, recognizing and measuring the liability. This liability represents the government's promise to pay the private operator for its services. Ipsas 32 says this liability can be accounted for in one of two ways, depending entirely on how the operator gets paid. The first model is the financial liability model. This applies when the government pays the operator directly for the asset. This could be a series of fixed payments over the life of the contract. For example, the government agrees to pay a company 5 billion rupees every year for 25 years for building and maintaining a power plant. In this case, the government records a financial liability on its balance sheet, which is basically a loan. Over the years, as the government makes its annual payments, it will reduce this liability, just like you reduce your car loan balance with each monthly installment. A portion of the payment will also be recorded as an interest expense. The second model is the grant of a right to the operator model. This is used when the government doesn't pay the operator directly. Instead, the government gives the operator the right to earn revenue from the public. Let's make this super concrete. Imagine the government of Sindh wants to build a new state-of-the-art children's hospital in Karachi because the existing facilities are overwhelmed. The project will cost a massive 75 billion rupees, which the provincial government doesn't have in its annual budget. So they create a public-private partnership deal. They sign a 30-year service concession arrangement with a private healthcare consortium called Heal Well Private Limited. Heal Well will design, Heal Well will build, Heal Well will finance, Heal Well will operate the hospital. Let's walk through how Ipsas 32 would apply here step by step. First, the Sindh government's finance department needs to confirm this is an Ipsas 32 deal. They check the contract. Does the government control the services? Yes, the contract says the hospital must treat all children. The contract specifies the types of medical services to be offered. The government's health commission has to approve the rates for any private rooms. Does the government control the residual interest? Yes. The contract clearly states that at the end of 30 years, the entire hospital facility and all its equipment will be transferred to the Sindh government. So check and check. This is definitely an Ipsas 32 arrangement. Now Healwell starts construction. As they spend money building the hospital, the Sindh government starts recognizing the asset. When construction is complete and the cost is confirmed at 75 billion rupees, the government of Sindh adds a line item to its balance sheet. Assets. Service concession asset. Karachi Children's Hospital, 75 billion rupees. Suddenly, a massive public asset that was previously invisible on the books is now officially recorded. So after all the training, the data collection and the political wrangling, what's the ultimate payoff? Why go through all this trouble? The long-term impact of successfully implementing Ipsas 32 in Pakistan is transformative. It rewires public financial management from opaque cash accounting to transparent, accrual-based reporting fit for the 21st century. The single biggest impact will be on transparency. The government's long-term commitments on major infrastructure projects will be laid bare for everyone to see. New motorway power plant. This transparency fuels accountability. Parliamentarians must now debate long-term affordability, not just project merits. Journalists, civil society organizations will have official data to ask pointed questions and hold decision-makers accountable. It creates a powerful disincentive against financially irresponsible projects. The consequences show up on the books. The move also improves decision-making within government. With a complete, accurate picture of existing assets and liabilities, planners can make smarter investment choices. Analyze the country's debt burden. Assess project sustainability. Manage public assets over their life cycle. It professionalizes public finance, shifting focus from short-term cash flows to long-term value and sustainability. That leads to better allocation of scarce public resources and more effective services. Adopting Ipsas 32 is a powerful statement of intent. Signals to international investors, development partners and citizens that Pakistan is serious about good governance. It boosts credibility on the global stage and can lead to better borrowing terms and more foreign investment. Most importantly, it rebuilds trust between the state and its people. Opening the books on massive public-private deals is a crucial step toward transparent public finance. It's a long road, but the destination, a more transparent and accountable Pakistan, is worth every step. Through Ipsas 32, Pakistan can build not just better infrastructure, but better institutions, creating a legacy of transparency and accountability for future generations.